Report, everybody. Dr. Peter Glidden here, your steadfast advocate for health, welcoming you to another live edition of Fire Your MD Now, a.k.a. The Dr. Glidden Show. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much. If you would like to join a worldwide live chat session for free associated with the video cast of this radio program, go to thedrgliddenshow.tv, thedrgliddenshow.tv. Give us your email address. We keep it all in-house. We don't sell it to Big Pharma. And you will have immediate access to the chat room where there are currently 94 people in attendance from all over the world. This is Metaphysical Thursday, and on Thursdays we let our hair down a little bit and we talk about concepts which are outside of the ken of normal, conventional scientific inquiry. If you believe in God, you are a practicing metaphysician. If you believe in life after death, you are a practicing metaphysician. If you have ever told anyone that you love them, you are practicing metaphysics. Metaphysics, the concepts encompassed in the world of metaphysics are those concepts which we experience in the physical world, which are outside of the ability of Newtonian science to be able to accurately assess, right? Well, for instance, if you've ever told someone you love them, well, that's great, but can you prove it? I want you to prove it. Prove it to me that you love your wife. Prove it. Prove it to me that you love your mother. Can you prove it? No, you can't prove it. However, you know it to be true down to your very bones. This is metaphysics. And today, I have the great pleasure to talk to a colleague and a friend of mine, a chiropractic physician, Dr. Matthew Peel. I'm going to bring him up here in just a second. And Dr. Peel is a very talented chiropractor. He'll tell us a story in a little bit about his work with the Chicago Blackhawks years ago. And the type of diagnostic discovery that he's been using very effectively for the last few years is a type of diagnostic technique referred to as applied kinesiology. It is fascinating, awesome, and 100% inside of the realm of metaphysics. Let's bring Dr. Peel up right now. Dr. Peel, thank you so much for being with us. How is it going?
Going well, Peter. Thank you, Dr. Glidden, for having me on your show.
It's my pleasure. Let me bring up your contact information for the listening audience. Dr. Peel's website, evolve2wellness.net. You can see it on the video stream. Evolve, the numeral 2, wellness.net. The phone number for his office here in Western Springs, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago, 855-EVOLVE-U. I love that, 855-EVOLVE-U. So, Dr. Peel, give the listening audience a little bit of a background on applied kinesiology and what that's all about.
Yes, absolutely. Applied kinesiology is a diagnostic value system. It was founded in 1964 by a Dr. George Goodhart out of Detroit, Michigan. He was a chiropractor, a second-generation chiropractor. His father was a chiropractor and a naturopathic physician. And Dr. Goodhart was brought up in the healing arts. And when he was introduced with the book Kendall and Kendall, some physical therapists that wrote the textbook on manual muscle testing to help polio patients, he learned how to specifically test specific muscles, identify them. But what he was notable for in 1964 was he found that he could identify a muscle that was functionally inhibited, not functioning to its optimal capacity, how we would expect it to. But what he noticed was you could instantly change the way that muscle was functioning. And from that point on, he began teaching that to other physicians. Applied kinesiology is a diagnostic value system, and his original intention of it was to create a system with it which we could have interdisciplinary communication. And today, to study and practice applied kinesiology, it's limited to physicians with a license to give a diagnosis. So it is only for licensed professionals to study and practice. But in our association, the International College of Applied Kinesiology, which you can view at ICAK.com, or which is worldwide, and the USA chapter is ICAKUSA.com. You can find more information there. But it is very multidisciplinary. I was just in Washington, D.C. for the 50th anniversary USA and International Conference, and I wrote the diplomat exam this year. And for the practical exam, I thought it was very fascinating. I had a German dentist, a Guatemalan medical doctor, and a British osteopath administering the practical exam to me. So it is a very diverse group of physicians worldwide. Next year, the international conference is going to be held in Korea. And the year previous, it was recently in Canada, France, and Australia.
Dr. Peel, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, has more initials after his name than I do, and you have to respect someone who gets into continuing education to this degree as their career progresses down the road of life. So, Dr. Peel, all right, so give us a practical example. If somebody came to see you as a patient, what would an applied kinesiology treatment look like to them, and what information could you gain from an applied kinesiology diagnostic program?
Yeah, absolutely. So when visiting an applied kinesiologist, or what we call ourselves professional applied kinesiologists, that's someone who has gone through the proper certification and passed the examination. We have three primary methods of diagnosis of the body. It's a very holistic system. First is a postural and or gait analysis, where we look at the standing posture or we look at the gait, and what we try and identify is a muscle or muscle group that is presenting the greatest distortion. And our thought there is that is probably going to be a primary link to whatever issue the person has going on. Another method of diagnosis would be the acupuncture pulse point diagnosis, where we would find what we call an indicator muscle. That would be a normal functioning muscle. And we have the patient, therapy localized, contact themselves, their pulse point, located right over the radial artery at the wrist. And this is an age-old acupuncture diagnostic technique, but we use that in applied kinesiology. So on the wrist, you go right over here, and the pulse point, the traditional pulse point, there's 3 on each wrist, and on the other side, there's another 3. So it's very fascinating. I'll go over them real quickly for you. On the right wrist, here we have the metal element, the earth element, and the fire element. And on the left wrist, we have the fire element again, the wood element, and the water element. Each of those elements has a yin and yang meridian associated to them. And so through seeing how their indicator muscle responds when they contact one of those elements, we can identify a primary dysfunction, a primary deficiency in the chi system of acupuncture.
So let me just see if I have this correct, because I understand these concepts. I'm not sure how many people in the listening audience do. We have a very educated audience. So what you're telling me is that by becoming adept at reading the pulse points, which are developed through the acupuncture school of medical thought, by diagnosing the pulse on both wrists, you can get a really good sense diagnostically of what part of that person's body needs help. Well, maybe it's the thyroid that needs help. Maybe it's the left knee that needs help. Maybe it's the spleen. Maybe it's the heart. Is this basically the idea that we're talking about, that by discernment of the pulse through an acupuncture point of view, you're given very relevant, pertinent, and effective diagnostic information? Is this basically where we're going?
Absolutely, Dr. Glidden. Say the heart element yin meridian, or the fire element heart, which is the heart is the yin meridian of the fire element. If that's the one that seems to come up relevant, then in applied kinesiology we have figured out which muscles of the body are on those meridian systems. So in that case, we'd be looking at the subscapularis muscle, a rotator cuff muscle. So your rotator cuff issue, your shoulder problem, may be a heart issue.
Oh, that's fascinating. So my head just exploded a little bit here. Okay, right. This is really fascinating, and this is such a really great example of a holistic system of thought. You know, we throw this word around, holistic, way too much. People don't even know how to spell it, let alone know what it is. But this is fascinating. So what you're telling me is that it is the experience of professional applied kinesiology practitioners that different muscle groups of the body have direct relationships to organ function, and by paying attention to what's going on with the pulse, it can give you an indication of which muscle group to diagnose, and by diagnosing the muscle group, you can get a bead on the pathology hidden inside the body. My head just exploded. We are up against a hard break. Stick around with us, Dr. Peel. This is going to be a very interesting hour. So very glad that you are here with me today. His website, ladies and gentlemen, evolve2wellness.net, evolve2wellness.net. The phone number, 855-EVOLVE-U. I am Dr. Peter Glidden, and this is the luckiest day of your life. You've tuned in to Fire Your MD Now. Stick around. Welcome back, everybody. Dr. Peter Glidden here, your steadfast advocate for health, encouraging you, if you're watching on YouTube, to go to thedrgliddenshow.tv, thedrgliddenshow.tv. I'll bring up that metric for you right now, thedrgliddenshow.tv, which will give you immediate access to our worldwide live chat, which is directly linked to this radio program. There are over 120 people in the live chat now from all over the world. Hang out with like-minded individuals. It is an empowering experience. Talking to my friend and colleague, Dr. Matthew Peel, a licensed chiropractic physician who also is a diplomate in professional applied kinesiology. And we're talking about kinesiology here this afternoon. It is fascinating, a fascinating subject. All right, Dr. Peel, you are back live. So here's the deal, right? Through the applied kinesiology pulse diagnosis, we get a sense of which muscle groups may be affected, and then by doing the kinesiology diagnostic array on the muscle group, we get a sense of which organ is affected. Am I more or less in the right territory here?
Yes, absolutely, Dr. Glidden. Go ahead. One of the basic principles that we utilize respecting applied kinesiology is an old chiropractic principle, not talked about too much these days in conventional chiropractic medicine, but we call it the triad of health. If you imagine an equilateral triangle, each of those sides represents the areas that we need to acknowledge. And the bottom of that triangle being the structural and physical nature of our health, and then the other two sides being our mental, emotional, and the other one our chemical. And all of those sides need to be respected, and that's what we do. So through the pulse diagnosis, we find a muscle. Earlier I gave the example of the subscapularis for the heart. And then we would identify what is the emotional component to that, chemical component to that, and physical structural component to that, and address all those areas for the betterment of the patient.
So how would you then intervene once you've determined that a particular organ system is at play, or there's a particular weakness, in the liver or the gallbladder or the left knee? What then do you do therapeutically, and how do you track the effectiveness of the treatment?
Yeah, so we can identify how effective the treatment will be before we administer the treatment.
Wait a minute. Whoa, wait a minute. My head just exploded again. So you're telling me that through this technique, you are able to get a sense of which therapeutic nutrients, which herbs, which treatments are going to be most effective for that individual and which ones are going to be least effective?
Absolutely, Dr. Glidden.
Oh, that's just awesome. Why every physician in the world doesn't do this is quite beyond me. So let's pretend that I'm a patient. I've come to see you. I don't really know anything about applied kinesiology. You lay me down on a typical chiropractic or a massage table, right? Read my pulse points, and then what are you going to do? How are you going to assess the functionality of different muscle groups? What does that look like to a newbie?
Yeah, what that'll look like. So again, I'll stick with, you go on the table and we check your pulse points. Again, let's say we go to your wrist here, and nothing wrong here. We get to this point right here, and we have an issue, and we suspect maybe the person's already complaining of a shoulder problem or not, and we find that maybe it's not a shoulder problem but an elbow problem or a wrist problem. Or a chest problem, and we find that the subscapularis muscle is not maintaining a normal contraction. It's not normally facilitated. It's functionally inhibited. From that point, we use a technique called therapy localization. That was found in 1976, again by Dr. Goodhart. And what that is we can merely have the patient contact reflex points. In this case, we're talking acupuncture. So we would have the patient touch on their body, located just below the chest, what's called a mu point in Chinese, or an alarm point, acupuncture point of their body. And if their muscle changes instantly to the patient touching that, we know how to appropriately treat that dysfunctional muscle and acupuncture meridian.
Unbelievable. Everything's connected, ladies and gentlemen. This just gets better and better. Thankfully, I am not the only one sounding the clarion call of holistic medicine to anyone with ears to hear. Very happy to have our very special guest, Dr. Matthew Peel. Stick around, much more to come. Dr. Peter Glidden here, your steadfast advocate for health, welcoming you to Metaphysical Thursday, where we're talking to a colleague and friend of mine, Dr. Matthew Peel, a chiropractic physician. Check out his website, evolve2wellness.net. Dr. Peel, welcome back.
Hey.
So, I know from my personal conversations with you that for a while you were working with members of the Chicago Blackhawks, and I'm wondering if you'd like to share a story from your time with them. I believe there was one of the players that you were working with during one of the playoffs, and your work with him had a dramatic impact on the results of the playoffs. You feel comfortable talking about that?
Yeah, sure. You talk a little bit about that.
Okay, because it involves applied kinesiology. Your treatments involved applied kinesiology, and nobody else could figure it out. And you used applied kinesiology not only to figure it out, but to fix it. So give us a little insight.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we had a player that he had a pretty severe injury and he couldn't play. And when I had just started working with him a little bit and seeing some players, and that was going pretty well, and started seeing some more players and kind of bringing it in and trying it out. Well, they brought a player to me that they said there was nothing that could help him, is what was told to me. And I said, well, we'll try it out. And he had an injury that he wasn't able to move his arm very well. And I got him to move his arm better right in that moment. And, I think 5-10 minutes working with him. And they asked me to come back the next day, and they thought that was pretty amazing. I was rather frustrated that I only got a little bit of movement, only increased his movement by 10, 15 degrees. They thought that was pretty significant. It wasn't for me, but the next day I came back, and what I knew was that I couldn't get past that because the muscle necessary to get past that point, that range of motion, it needed a nutrient. It actually needed chemical support, and so I couldn't put that in with my hands, and they didn't have that chemical they needed on hand. So I had to go back to my office. The next day when I returned, I asked him, checked his range of motion. It was about the same as when I'd left. So it had maintained what we had worked on the day before, but it hadn't gotten worse or better. And so I had him chew out that chemical substance, and his 15 degrees range of motion went to about 50 to 60 degrees range of motion.
Wait a minute. How long did that take to go from 15 to 60 degrees?
Long enough to chew up a tablet.
Well, all right, you have to tell us what it was. You have to tell us what the supplement was.
And, so then, where he was stuck at, I knew that, the next muscle group relating, that first one was relating to the brain, the muscle relating to the brain. Then the second one where he was stuck at, it was a muscle group relating to the lungs. And so I got a product with vitamin C in it, and I had him chew that up with the original product, which was ribonucleic acid. And had him chew those up, and he then had over 100 degrees range of motion in that moment. And some of the players standing around watching could not believe their eyes and commented, I don't think I can share exactly what they said, but it was rather funny at the time. And that was in about a moment of within a minute time of evaluation. And so then from that point, we went to look at the emotional and the physical aspects of that so that we could get a better outcome.
And ultimately, what was the better outcome? Didn't he have a pivotal role in the playoffs?
Yeah, conventionally, his injury would be a 2 to 3 month. He'd be out 2 to 3 months, and yeah, it was in the playoffs. And he was back on the ice in 7 days. He was in the game in 7 days. I don't know that that's ever. I haven't heard of that being done yet. And he played a significant role in them winning a championship.
Man, you gotta love it. Applied kinesiology to the rescue. Dun, 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 dun. If you're a Chicago Blackhawks fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You gotta love that, ladies and gentlemen. Applied kinesiology is an awesome diagnostic technique, and it is an awesome indicator of therapeutics, right? You can tell when you apply kinesiology professionally and correctly whether or not the nutritional supplements that you think in your head the person needs are actually needed by them. You can also dial in the dose, which is a remarkable thing. And now remember, in the context of this radio program, we talk about medical nutrition for the masses, right? I mean, everybody needs to drink purified water. Everybody needs to not pee upstream and drink downstream. We need to have a sanitation system that eliminates our waste appropriately and effectively. We all need to be eating food that doesn't have crap in it on a regular basis and on a regular basis. These are just generic things that everyone needs to do. Well, our supposition is that I'm going to be talking about tonight, by the way, on a worldwide free webinar called Anti-Aging. Worldwide free webinar. It's free. Anti-Aging, 8 o'clock Central Time tonight. Go to drglidden.com, drglidden.com to get information about how to log into the free event. Worldwide webinar where I'm going to talk tonight about simple steps that everybody can take in a generic boilerplate fashion to increase their lifespan and increase their health. And this is what we talk about here, general stuff that everybody can do right now. And sometimes we do this and people get better 100%. Sometimes we do this, people get better at 90%, 80%, 70%, and they hit a wall. Well, if you hit a wall in your improvement with foundation generic medical nutrition for the masses, then it's my advice, find a medical professional in your neighborhood who is an applied kinesiologist specialist. Dr. Peel, if someone wanted to dial that in, how would they go about finding someone who has, had all the requisite good training as opposed to somebody who, just did a weekend class?
Yeah, you can. Well, that's a tricky question, Dr. But the easy answer is you can go to ICAK.com or in the and from there you can scroll through the different whatever country that you're located in, because it's around the world. There's ICAK Euro, there's ICAK Australia, there's ICAK in anybody that's tuned in. You can find someone near you. And from there, they have a Find a Doc. So ICAKUSA.com, you can go on the Find a Doc, put in your zip code, and it'll pop up all the people that are registered. The people that are registered, it doesn't necessarily tell you their qualifications. Now, if you go on there and you find the letters after the name DICAK, that means they're a diplomate in applied kinesiology. So they've gone beyond just certification, but they've gotten their diplomate status. Another way that you could find someone that practices the way I practice that I would recommend looking up is on totalbodymodification.com. And there's a Find a Physician on there as well. And that one does tell you what their certification was with that system of healing.
Now, fascinating stuff again. So, in our workings together, you have become an advocate of longevity and Dr. Wallach's line of nutritional support products. When you test people with applied kinesiology as to whether or not longevity products are effective for them, generally speaking, what has your experience been?
They've tested very well. And with testing, it might be good to just say what that entails with the testing. We talked briefly about the heart meridian and it being finding a muscle that's functionally inhibited, not working well. What we can do is we can take a nutritive substance, just like with that Blackhawks player or any other patient, and we put that nutrient in their mouth, like taking a tangerine. I'm right here. Put this in the mouth, and if that dysfunctional muscle becomes functional, that tells us that there's something in there that the body recognizes useful and it needs. It's creating a benefit in the body. And when we test nutrients, there's three basic things we can find. We can find there's no effect. The dysfunctional muscle stays dysfunctional, and the functional muscle stays functional. But we can also test substances that are not good for the body. And in that instance, a functional muscle becomes dysfunctional. It doesn't work properly. So we can identify things that the body is sensitive to or that are bad for the body and things that are good for the body and the body needs more of. And so that's what we do. Yeah, I found the longevity products to test very well. That's not true with all supplement companies. We are very selective in our office of the supplements that we use, and we've tested many. Oftentimes, patients come in with their grocery bag full of supplements that they've been taking, and one of the things we do on a first visit is go through all of them to see, well, are they causing your problem?
You gotta, yeah, right. I mean, it's fascinating, really. So as it turns out, the proof of the pudding not only is in the eating, but ultimately it's in the muscles as well. And if you have a medical professional who's been trained in this diagnostic technique and has actual clinical experience with this diagnostic technique, then let's just say you're going to be way, way, way ahead of the curve. So, Dr. Peel, if people are interested in coming to see you as a patient, what do they have to do? What are the steps?
To see us as a patient, you can go on to the website and email us to set up an appointment, or you can call that number right there, 855-EVOLVE-U, which is 855-386-5838, and schedule an appointment. In schedule an appointment, we do bill insurance for patients that would like that. Some people don't want that, and we have self-pay options as well.
And generally speaking, if someone were to come to see you, and by the way, I can't believe I'm going to ask this question because I hate it when people ask me. But if you had to give a ballpark number of the amount of times a person is going to need to see you to get a major leverage with a chronic health condition, is it 10 times, 1,000 times? Generally speaking, what's your timetable for treatment?
Well, someone with a chronic condition, it becomes a lifestyle. It's a way of living. It's a way of doing things. You know, if someone's dehydrated and they finally get enough salt and water into their diet that they're hydrated, they don't just stop doing it. They continue.
Yeah, it's a point well taken, right? It is a lifestyle change, and this is what we're all about here, educating people about what they can do, helping them to get over the hump wherever they're stuck, and then maintaining a relationship for life. That's what we're up to here in Youngevity. Stick around, more to come. Learning something? I certainly am. I have to tell you something. Every time I go to Dr. Peel's office for a treatment, my head does explode because some of the things that he's able to come up with, it seems, it's remarkable to me that this type of a diagnostic procedure is available, and yet so few physicians do it. And I'd like to talk about that, Dr. Peel. So how long have you been involved with professional applied kinesiology, and what's kind of your sense of where it's at now and where it's going professionally?
I graduated chiropractic school in 2008, and I started studying applied kinesiology while I was in school, while I was in the chiropractic program in Portland, Oregon. I took the weekend seminars, would spend 17 hours a weekend in applied kinesiology classes outside of my 36 hours a week of school. And so I was certified in applied kinesiology before I graduated chiropractic. And they do allow students of a professional program to start studying it. The way the overseeing governing body of applied kinesiology, the International College of Applied Kinesiology, we unfortunately lost Dr. Goodhart, who was a great inspiration to all of us, the founder of the profession, and he was a genius. He was the first chiropractor to be team physician for the U.S. Olympic team in 1980, Lake Placid. And we lost him in 2008. And since then, it was a little bit rocky, but the organization right now has excellent leadership, and they're doing a lot to really improve the organization and get it up into making it more mainstream, putting out a lot of good research. We've got a lot of great evidence that's coming out, getting published. And it looks really good. It looks really promising. It's growing. Absolutely.
I think I may have misheard you when you spoke about the website. Is the website for the professional applied kinesiology I like Indigo, P like Peter, A like Apple, K like, what is it? Give it to me again.
No, it's not. Yeah, Mr. I is in Indigo, C is in cat. International College of Applied Kinesiology.
Well, how about that? I did get it right. Okay, great. All right, thanks so much, Dr. Peel. Man, I would love to just, have you back as a regular guest, because the stuff that we could talk for hours about specific muscle groups as they're related to different parts of the body, and the pulse diagnostic technique and acupuncture meridians is all really, really, really fascinating stuff. I appreciate your perspective on this. I appreciate your your stand for holistic medicine. I appreciate your support and promotion of Dr. Wallach's health recovery message. Every once in a while, you're like the fella said, you're not born into your family, but you meet members of your family as you go through life. I appreciate everything that you do. Ladies and gentlemen, once more, Dr. Peel's website, evolve2wellness.net, 855-EVOLVE-U. That's I, C like Charlie, A like Apple, K like Ku Klux Klan.com for information about the International Association. But, I think a better option for people, just fly to Chicago and have a visit with Dr. Peel. I think that's probably one of the better things you could do. Dr. Peel, in the last minute and a half, any parting thoughts?
As you opened this show, it was St. Augustine that said, miracles are merely the part of nature we have yet to understand. And fortunately, the technology is starting to finally catch up. And, if I can see farther than others, it's because I stand on the shoulders of giants. Sir Isaac Newton.
That's why I love him so much. Ladies and gentlemen, twin sons of different mothers, let's say goodbye to Dr. Matthew Peel. Dr. Peel, looking so very much forward to seeing you in the future. Keep up the very good work that you're doing. Evolve2wellness.net, ladies and gentlemen, 855-EVOLVE-U, 855-EVOLVE-U. I'm Dr. Peter Glidden. This is Fire Your MD Now. Stick around. We're going right to the phones when we come back, and it looks like Jim from Myrtle Beach is up first. Thanks so much for tuning in and turning on. I'm going to leave Dr. Peel's information up here for a little bit longer. Evolve2wellness.net. You can check it out right here on the live video stream. The drgliddenshow.tv, the drgliddenshow.tv. Let's go right to the phones. People have been waiting patiently. Let's go to Myrtle Beach and talk to Jim. Hey, Jim, thanks for the call. You are live.
Hello, Dr. Glidden. Thanks for taking my call.
I'm happy to, Jim. Always happy to talk to you.
I missed one of my fellows yesterday. But anyway, I've got a fellow 65 years old. About 5 foot 5 inches tall, 150 pounds. He's been diagnosed with overactive thyroid, and he's on blood thinner, Aralto blood thinner. Wants to come off of that.
Yeah.
And that's the two primary things he's challenged with.
Okay, so overactive thyroid is an interesting condition. It's rare that people get an overactive thyroid. It's very much more prevalent that they get an underactive thyroid. When we have an overactive thyroid, we want to pay attention to the endocrine system in the body, because the pituitary gland in the brain, the thyroid, the adrenal glands over the kidneys are all intimately related, and when one is out of balance, the others are going to be a little funky also. So this man needs comprehensive endocrine support, and we do that by eliminating the 10 bad foods and recommending a diet that's high in cholesterol, because all of his stress hormones and all of the nerves in his body are made from cholesterol. That's what they are made from. So it would be prudent for him to consume a diet that's high in cholesterol, also eliminating the 10 bad foods. Now, there are foods that he can eat that will knock down thyroid function and kind of help to rein in the overactive thyroid function without a medicinal effect, right? He doesn't have to take a prescription medication replete with side effects in order to help knock down thyroid function. The foods that he wants to eat are a category of foods called cruciferous vegetables. So broccoli and Brussels sprouts and cauliflower and eggplant, right? He needs to eat these foods every day. Cruciferous vegetables will decrease thyroid function. So, have him eat broccoli, cauliflower, eggplant, and Brussels sprouts every day. It will help him a great deal to be able to, kind of throw himself a life raft, so to speak, a life ring, while he's waiting for the medical nutrition to have a positive impact on his body. And whenever we're trying to support and promote healthy thyroid function, myrrh oil, MYRRH, the essential oil of myrrh applied topically to the throat, right over the thyroid gland 3 times a day is a really good intervention. Myrrh oil, a couple of drops of the essential oil of myrrh applied topically over the thyroid is a very good thing to do. And the nutritional program would be 1 Healthy Body Start Pack 2.0 liquid, 1 bottle of plant-derived minerals, and 2 bottles of selenium per 100 pounds of body weight per month. To that program, he can add the Immortalium, 1 bottle of Immortalium a month. And please advise him that he should go see a chiropractor, have a lateral x-ray of his neck done, and check the curve in his neck. Because if the curve in his neck is not correct, then the nerves going to the thyroid are going to be funky. And if the nerves going to the thyroid are funky, thyroid can be funky. Oftentimes it's as simple as fixing the curve in the neck. But he needs to go to a chiropractor who knows how to do that. Not all chiropractors do that. So he needs to make some calls around and see if the chiropractors in his neighborhood are conversant with and have clinical experience with adjusting the cervical curve in the necks of their patients. And so that's what I would do. Eliminate the 10 bad foods, eat a lot of cruciferous vegetables, eat a lot of food that's high in cholesterol, take those nutritional supplements. And also...
Eggs, too.
Yeah, anything high in cholesterol, eggs, butter, full-fat milk, full-fat yogurt, turkey with the skin, chicken with the skin, rare hamburger, rare meat, right, with salt. We're all good with that. And his medical doctor, if he's on Coumadin, should be...
Aralto.
Okay, so they should be doing every 2 or 3 weeks a blood test to test for how thin his blood is or how thick his blood is. So after he starts this program, it's entirely possible that the essential fatty acids in the Healthy Pack will normalize the viscosity of his blood, and then the drug that he's taking will make his blood too thin. So when he goes back for his blood test, the MDs will see that his blood is too thin, and then they'll reduce the medication appropriately.
What was that last statement? Repeat that.
Until he doesn't need it at all. Well, he should be, if his doctors are on their game, then every 2 to 3 weeks, they should have him going back to their office to get a little blood test. It's a finger prick, will do it.
Yeah.
That tests how thin or how thick his blood is, right?
Yes.
That's how they adjust the dosage of that medication. And so when he starts this program, it is entirely possible that his blood will start to get too thin because the essential fatty acids in our stuff are normalizing his blood's viscosity, and the drug is then making it too thin.
What's the dosage on the, what do you recommend dosage on the EFAs?
Well, it's just the EFAs that are in the Healthy Start Pack. I don't think he's going to need more than that. So, however many Healthy Packs he needs, take that many.
3 per day.
Yeah, take that many. How much does he weigh?
150.
Well, I'd give him 2 Healthy Packs. And if you don't want to do that, then give him 1 Healthy Pack, 1 Healthy Body Start Pack 2.0, 1 bottle of plant minerals, 3 bottles of selenium, 1 bottle of Immortalium, and 1 bottle of multi-EFAs, 1 bottle of multi-EFAs. And then, the doctors will be able to adjust his medication down as his blood work starts to improve, and it's really a pretty easy thing to take care of.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Glidden.
Jim, it's always a pleasure. I appreciate you very much. You're doing really good work down there in Florida. There's a lot of people in Florida that need you. A lot of people, of our parents' generation, I'll speak for myself, of my parents' generation, that are just suffering needlessly. I mean, hard for them to get up out of a chair. They have to walk around with a cane. They can't play golf anymore. It's hard for them to sleep through the night. Everybody's got heartburn, and it's a problem. And all of it will go away with properly applied medical nutrition intervention. It is just to be able to help somebody sleep through the night without medication. You know how what a boon that is? And this is possible. with what we're doing here. Quite frankly, it happens without our even trying to address it. I can't tell you how many people have come to me and talked to me about, oh, I've got a high blood pressure issue. Oh, I've got a arthritic knee. Oh, I've got fibromyalgia. Oh, I've got Lyme's disease. Oh, I've got chronic fatigue or whatever. They don't even tell me that they can't sleep through the night. We put them on the program and they start sleeping through the night. And they come back all excited. Doc, I'm sleeping through the night. Well, I think that's great, but I didn't know that was a problem to begin with. And that speaks to the holistic nature of what we're up to, right? Because everything in the body is connected. So when you give the body everything that it needs in absorbable recipes, and then you trust in the wisdom of the body to sort it all out, well, guess what? The body sorts it all out, and that's a beautiful thing. Paul is up next from Illinois. Hey, Paul, thanks for the phone call. You are live.
Thank you, Dr. Glidden. I have a 61-year-old, 220-pound male. He's got a lot of problems. He's on 9 medications. The only thing, he's got rosacea, digestive problems, so obviously he's got a gluten problem. Gave him a list of the 10 bad foods. The only thing I had available was the Healthy Start Pack, the regular Healthy Start Pack. And he said, I talked to him here a few days ago, and he said he has a real problem getting the tangy down for some reason or other. And
yeah, it's an interesting thing. A lot of people have a problem with that supplement, especially if they're older, especially if they've been...
a lot of medicines, too, is what I figured. But
yeah, and it is, and it's kind of like... I mean, I don't know what would be a good metaphor, but, if you've got a sunburn, and even if you put on the finest silk shirt, on your back, it's going to be irritated, right?
Yeah, correct.
So when people, they're in, for 60, 70 years, they're eating all the wrong foods, their bodies are completely undernutrified, and now they have to deal with the extracurricular stress and strain of the prescription meds. I mean, they're like, an exposed nerve in your tooth, and everything is going to make them upset. Quite frankly, I'm surprised these people can make it through the day. I think the only reason that they can is because they're numbed out of their brains on the prescription meds. So when you see people like this having reactions like this, you have to get creative. So the first thing to do is to dramatically reduce the dose of the Beyond Tangy Tangerine.
That's the first thing I suggested.
Yeah, give it in extremely dilute dosages. You have to find a dose that they're going to be able to tolerate. And then every 7 days, which is just an easy thing to track, 7-day periods, right? Every 7 days, increase the dosage of it a little bit. Now, failing that, because the body will get used to it and will be able to tolerate it more and more if you step into it slowly like that. And, they can add anything they want to make it taste better. He can add, vodka to it to make, I don't care what he adds to it, as long as it's none of the 10 bad foods. And also, another thing that you can do by way of thinking outside the box, make a popsicle out of it. How about that? Or, put the crystals of the Beyond Tangy Tangerine sprinkle them directly onto full-fat yogurt, mix it into the yogurt, and then eat the yogurt, or put the sprinkles in a smoothie. They'll never be able to taste them if they're inside the smoothie. And, if you find a way to get the stuff in the body in a way that doesn't aggravate the body, then it's only a matter of time until you're able to increase the dose. He's able to tolerate it more, and as there's more and more of this stuff in the body, he feels better and better, and then we're off to the races. And that's how we do it. Appreciate you very much. Stick around, folks. So much more to come. Love me some Carlos Santana, man. What's wrong with that? Not anything that I'm aware of. Let's go back to the phones again. Dora from California is up. Hey, Dora, thanks for the call.
Hi.
You are live.
I had varicose veins for quite a while. In fact, on my left and back of my ankle, it's about the size of a quarter, a little clumpy like. And then in back of my right knee, I found yesterday there's quite a few veins back there.
So you want to know what causes that and what we'd recommend to get on the other side of it?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so from our point of view, Dora, that's caused by a deficiency in the trace mineral copper.
How do you take copper?
Well, you lean heavily on longevity and Dr. Wallach's wisdom. Copper, right, is one of the 90 essential nutrients.
Uh-huh.
And if you were just to go to a health food store somewhere and get a copper supplement and start taking it, it would upset the balance of nutrients in your body, because copper and vitamin C and the trace mineral selenium are intimately related. So this is why we are not advocates of fractionated nutrition, which is the administration of large doses of single vitamins. Like Linus Pauling would advocate, getting intravenous drips of 20,000 milligrams of vitamin C, for instance. Well, that's not such a good idea. However, holistic medical nutrition with a little extra copper would be just what the doctor ordered for you. And the longevity supplement that is loaded with copper in a therapeutic dose is the selenium, the longevity selenium.
Oh, selenium?
Yeah. How much do you weigh?
116.
116?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I would do I would do 6 selenium a day, If you can, do 2 between meals 3 times a day. Selenium is best absorbed in the body on an empty stomach.
Now, do they eventually disappear, or?
Well, it depends entirely on too many variables to predict. They can disappear. But also, we need to understand that this is kind of a varicose vein, from our point of view, is a diagnostic indication. It's like the check engine light on the dashboard. It's an indication that there's a copper deficiency in the body.
Uh-huh.
And if there's a copper deficiency there's also a copper deficiency other places which are perhaps more dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
So whether or not we're able to make traction with the varicosities, it's entirely possible. I've seen it happen. But what's more to the point, it's an indication that your body is calling for copper. So I would take the selenium supplement that has the copper in it. If you're ever at a flea market or a health fair or sometime in the near future and you see those copper bracelets that some people sell, get a copper bracelet.
Oh, I do wear a copper bracelet.
Okay.
For about a couple months or so.
Yeah, okay, great. So you want to maintain that discipline.
What about in foods? Any food has copper in it?
No, there's no food that, because remember, copper is a mineral, and the plant or the animal cannot make a mineral.
Uh-huh.
The only place that the mineral is found is in the soil, and God only knows whether or not there was copper growing in the soil that, your carrot was grown in, or copper present in the soil in which your carrot was grown in. Trying to get copper supplementation or any other mineral into the body by eating food is silly.
But can I get these selenium just over the counter?
No, Dr. Wallach's selenium is my recommendation, because
Do I take them with food, or does it matter?
Between meals would be best, and the recommendation for you would be, at your body weight, would be 6 a day. 2 between breakfast and lunch, 2 between lunch and dinner, and 2 between dinner and bedtime. On an empty stomach, if your stomach can handle it. And if it makes your stomach a little upset, then eat a little fruit with the selenium supplementation, a little fruit or a little yogurt to settle your stomach. But stay away from nuts. Stay away from nuts when you do the selenium supplement.
Okay. What about exercise?
Well, exercise is okay as long as the body is nutrified.
Yeah. Well,
what's your blood type?
I really don't know.
Yeah. I would advise you to do an experiment with yoga or Tai Chi. If you can find a Tai Chi class for people in your age bracket, you might have a really great experience. Tai Chi is a wonderful exercise. 500 million Chinese can't be wrong. They do it every day. It's a worthwhile thing to try anyway. Thanks for the call, Dora. Hey, folks, check out the live video stream, thedrgliddenshow.com. We're back after these words. Let's Let's go to the phones again. Hey, Dave and the Thumb is back with us from the Thumb of Michigan, by the way, the Thumb of Michigan. Hey, Dave, thanks for the call. Welcome back.
Hey, Doc, thanks a lot. How you doing?
Well, I'm great, but God willing and the creek don't rise, I'll get better. How are your solar panels doing?
Actually, pretty darn good, but my eyes are burning a little bit. I just had to spray some ionic silver in them because I sent out about 75 text messages about your free webinar tonight.
Well, that's an okay problem to have, Dave.
Yeah. Hopefully we get some response out of that, but
yeah.
I do have a couple of questions and a request. Dr. Erica Duffy, I haven't heard her on your show in a while.
Erica Duffy? You want me to have her back as a guest?
Yeah, I think you should. I think she would make a great Metaphysical Thursday guest. She does that, kind of self-hypnosis meditation kind of teaching.
All right, do you have her contact information, or can I just Google it?
I do. I have her cell phone number.
Well, you don't want to give me that out live.
No. I'll give you that offline. Actually, I can give you that. Right on the air because she does one-on-one and group sessions, and she gives that number out.
Oh, well, okay. I don't think I'm comfortable with that. But here's what I want you to do: call 855.
Hold on, I got to put it in my phone. I'm legally blind here, so slow down.
All right, slow down, brother.
Go ahead.
347.
347.
3696.
696.
Extension 2. Extension 2. That's if you hit extension 2, it goes direct to my office manager.
Oh.
And you can give her all the information, and then she'll give it to me, and life is good.
Okay, excellent. I remember you talked about, I think, Rafe, about the frequencies.
Yeah, the Rife frequency generator. The Rife frequency generator, yeah.
Right. My wife was at, we go to this farm store at a farm locally, and my wife met the owners there, and they were talking about, then when my wife told me about it, she just said these frequencies, and she said you go to rife.com, and I didn't put it together, and she went to the site, and she's playing these frequencies in the background on the computer, and last night on an after call, on a Youngevity after call with a bunch of Youngevity distributors hanging out and Sharon and Karen, and I mentioned that to some of the folks, and Bruce went and checked that site out, and he came back and he called me today and he said, yeah, that I went to that Rife frequency site, and it clicked, when he said it. I said, oh my God, I remember Doc Glidden had a show about that guy, and didn't they kill him?
Well, they confiscated all of his material, and what actually happened to him is, I can't remember, but...
Yeah, he went nuts or something, right?
Well, I don't know, but here's the deal. This was the basic understanding of this, for my listening audience that doesn't understand this, right? So, there was a gentleman years ago in the early 1900s. He developed a machine which generated radio wave pulsed frequencies at different frequency intervals into the human body, and he was able to kill different microorganisms with the radio frequencies, very similar in concept to being able to shatter a glass, like an opera singer. If they amplify their voice through, a microphone, they can use their voice to shatter the glass. Well, sound waves shattering the glass. Well, the trumpets bringing down the walls of Jericho, same idea. But Rife had dialed it in so that he had a specific frequency for this bacteria, and a specific frequency for this virus, and a specific frequency for a liver cancer cell, and a specific frequency for, a kidney cancer cell, and so forth and so on. And he was having remarkable results with it. The Food and Drug Administration came in, confiscated all of his stuff. Don't know what happened to him off the top of my head. But since he disappeared, and the Food and Drug Administration got all of his equipment, nobody, to my knowledge, has been able to replicate the frequencies that he used, because they confiscated them, and he was very secretive about that, and he wouldn't let anybody else know what the frequencies were. So since his disappearance and the confiscation of his material, there have been a number of people who have tried to replicate his work with varying levels of success. I'm not aware of anybody that's currently able to generate the same amount of success that he was, because his frequencies were proprietary information. You know, just like the recipe for Coca-Cola. Well, nobody knows what that is. You know, Pepsi comes close, and all these other cola companies come close, but it's not the same thing. So with the frequency generations that Rife was up to, they're very specific. And if you're off by, you know, a hertz or a millihertz or a megahertz, it's not going to work. So really another nail in the coffin against holistic medicine. And of course, the American Medical Association didn't want this information to be spread public, because then what would happen to antibiotics and the pharmaceutical industry? They'd all go belly up. So it's only a matter of time, however, before somebody comes along and replicates Rife's work. And, you know, maybe the political climate of the world will be different, and maybe the internet will make things different, and we'll be able to have some, purchase here with disseminating information like this. But it's fascinating stuff. And if there's anyone out there in radio land who has direct clinical experience with the Rife frequencies, I'd be willing to entertain a conversation with you on the air. I'm going to need to pre-interview you, though, just to make sure that we are both on the same page, because most people doing the Rife frequency work today just are not getting the same results that he was. But it's an interesting little piece of the pie of medical history. Quite frankly, from my point of view, one more reason to fire your medical doctor, because they are nothing but political scoundrels, quite frankly.
Well, Doc, I think this woman that my wife met is actually using that Rife.
There are a lot of people, Dave, but my point is that the results that people are getting are, what's the word? Questionable.
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, nobody, it's the same thing with dark field microscopy. The people that are doing it are not using the scientific method to prove it. They're just not.
Right.
They should, but they're not. And so it's just this kind of sketchy gray area of this scientific / holistic / pseudoscience / real science. So who the hell knows? But, you know, I mean, it's the scientific method, and you should be able to prove that this stuff works in a repeatable, double-blinded fashion. With something like this, you should be able to do that.
Right.
Because, you know, the frequency either is effective at destroying the protein code of the bacteria, or it's not. And you can see that under a microscope. So it's a very interesting field, and quite frankly, I believe, if I were to make a prediction, I would say that the field of acoustics is going to be the next big thing in medicine. And, you know, with different frequencies of radiation and different frequencies, and I don't mean ionizing radiation, I mean like ultraviolet radiation and light therapy, light and sound therapy is what I'm talking about. If I had to make a prediction, I would say that light and sound therapy are the next big things to happen, and if we're lucky, that will happen in our lifetime.
Sounds good. Okay, what about a sinus infection?
Well, we do the killer biotic internally. We do the colloidal silver spray into the nose. You know, and you have to, there's a way that you can get the spray into each nostril, because you have 3 nasal cavities, 3 sinus cavities on each side of your head. And they each have little openings into the nose. And so by putting your head in different positions when you're squirting the colloidal silver into your nostrils, you can effectively get close, at least, to getting the colloidal silver to infiltrate into the sinus cavities. That's what I recommend. Colloidal silver inhaled through the nose, 3 sprays, 3 times to each nostril every 2 hours. and then internally the Killer Biotic plus a diet that's high in protein. And while you are in the throes of any infection anywhere in the body, don't even look at sugar, don't even look at fruit or fruit juice or honey or maple syrup or anything that has extracurricular sugar in it, because sugar consumption depresses immune function. Ironically, drinking orange juice when you're sick is one of the worst things that anybody can do, because it downregulates your immune system, and that's not a good thing to do. So we avoid any extracurricular sugars. Eat a diet that's high in protein, because that's what your immune system is made from, protein. Take the 90 essential nutrients appropriate for body weight, the Killer Biotic internally, and the Colloidal Silver Nasal Spray. Should be easy breezy lemon squeezy within 14 days.
That's what I recommended, but I didn't mention the protein, extra protein in the diet, and the sugar. But what about extra EFAs?
Not a bad idea ever when we're attempting to interface with mucous membranes, because, right, one of the reasons ostensibly that sinus infections happen is not because there is a virus or a bacteria present. It's because the environment of the sinus cavity is good for the growth of bacteria and the persistence of virus. So, and this goes back to the old argument between Louis Pasteur and Beauchamp. When Pasteur first discovered microbes, Pasteur said it's the bug that's the thing, and Beauchamp said baloney, it's the environment of the body that's the thing, and that if the environment is healthy, the bug won't be able to get in and find a place to feed and breed. So, from our point of view, if somebody is dealing with chronic infections in a certain part of their body, it's probably not the presence of the microorganism that's the trouble. The problem is the environment of the body is problematic and has become a perfect breeding ground for the bacteria to feed and breed. So we always want to try to optimize different parts of the body when we're dealing with chronic infections. And one of the easiest ways to do that when we're optimizing sinus health is with essential fatty acid supplementation. And, your understanding of all of this, Dave, is a testament to the simple notion that the stuff that we're talking about here is easy to learn, easy to understand, and easy to disseminate. I mean, for goodness sake, you're legally blind. And you figured it out.
Right. Well, I tell you what, Doc, I love you. I've been going to Wallach, Glidden, Fuke University for about 2 years, 5 days a week for 4 hours a day. So, I owe it all to you guys, and we love you here. And I'll tell you, since you threw me out there into Youngevity Nation, I'm busier than hell.
Gotta love it. I mean, that's a good problem to have, Dave. A really good problem to have. I appreciate everything that you do and your family. Keep up the good work. By the way, that's the father of the young woman who is having 300 seizures a day, bipolar, and type 2 diabetes, all of which have since resolved. How do you think that makes him feel? Motivated, just like the rest of Youngevity Nation. We are a grassroots coalition of the informed. Welcome to the revolution. Thanks a lot for spending another 2 hours with me. Again, if you're interested in what we have to say and you found me all by yourself, then please give this number a call, 855-347-3696. That's 855-347-3696, and someone from my Youngevity organization will answer your call and show you the ropes. If you were told about this radio program through a friend or an associate or somebody who's already a Youngevity member, then get with them to get information about what to do next. And if you're listening to this show on terrestrial radio and you want to take the next step, listen to the number given out by your radio station during their commercial break. Call that number, and someone local to your radio station will give you a call back and tell you what we are up to, answer all of your questions. We are a worldwide coalition of the informed, so lean on the people that showed you this show in order to take the next step. We're going to finish out today's show with Terry from Virginia. Hey, Terry, thanks for the phone call. You are live. And tell you what we are up to, answer all of your... Come on, Terry. Worldwide coalition of the... I think Terry's listening to me on the radio. Showed you. So we're going to have to go to Lee instead. Hey, Lee, thanks for the phone call. You are live.
Good afternoon. I have a lady that lives in San Diego on dialysis, and she says that she's got to know what the product consists of and how it. She cannot take any potassium and so forth. What do you know about that?
Well, I know everything about that. I want you to tell her, but call her back and send her a brochure for a funeral home and say, well, thank you very much, but you're not going to listen to advice from the world's leading expert on medical nutrition. You're going to nitpick that. You're going to second guess that, or you're going to second guess what your dialysis doctor tells you. No. Well, why are you going to second guess what the world's leading expert on medical nutrition, Dr. Joel Wallach, is telling you for free? If you want to second guess that, you want to think you're smarter than Dr. Wallach, then God bless you. It's a free country, more or less. But quite frankly, this is a problem that we're up against here, Lee. A little bit of knowledge is a bad thing. A little bit of knowledge gives people hubris and makes people think that they know better than they do. Really, what this woman needs to do is eat a little dose of humble pie and lean on the medical expert here. Lean on the medical expert. My recommendation to her is call Dr. Wallach on his radio program herself and ask him this question, listen to his reply, record his reply, and bring it to her medical doctor. That's the only way that we're going to be able to leverage people who are stuck in the mud like this. Because honestly, it frustrates the heck out of me because, number one, they've gone to their medical doctor. The medical doctor has failed them. They don't question the medical doctor whatsoever. They just keep going back and taking it up to you-know-what. And then another medical professional comes along, but it's a medical profession that they don't know anything about, that they don't really have any objective understanding about, and they don't really have any respect for it. And this medical profession's expert rises from the muck and mire of worldly sentient existence and flies in the face of conventional understanding and says, here, do A, B, and C. But the person says, well, I'm going to do A and B, but I'm not so sure about C. Well, guess what? Go pound sand. If you're not going to lean on Dr. Wallach, then just don't lean on Dr. Wallach, and that's okay. My advice, find a good burial plot because they're going to need it. Does understand what I'm talking about? There's only so much we can do here, ladies and gentlemen. There's only so much we can do. And remember, the sad fact of the matter is that your medical doctor may be the nicest person God ever created, but by virtue of their training, they do not know what's best for you. They only know what they're trained in. And what they're trained in, as it turns out, is only suited for trauma, emergency medicine, and a handful of infectious diseases. Bringing a suffering body with a chronic health condition to the office of an MD is a fool's errand because their philosophical understanding of the pathogenesis of disease and their training in what to do about it is old-fashioned, outdated, and inconsistent with pathophysiology. It is a fool's errand to bring your body to the office of an MD if you're suffering with a chronic health condition. My advice: eliminate the 10 bad foods, take the appropriate healthy start pack, appropriate for body weight, give it 90 days, and look to see whether you get results or not. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. Surgery is complicated. Healing is easy. Hope to see you tonight on my worldwide anti-aging webinar. It's free. Check it out at drglidden.com. Until we meet in person, live long and prosper.